Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we are going to be making the ultimate smoked turkey from Meathead Goldwyn's book, Meathead. Been wanting to do this turkey for a while. In fact, I bought it probably last year when they were on sale around the holidays, but it's been in the freezer since. It came frozen. It's fine. Um, but this is an interesting recipe because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. Uh, and we end up making a gravy, but we're going to cook this on the grill. It's going to be smoked. It's hopefully going to be delicious, but we're not cooking it until tomorrow. And we have to prepare it today. This one does have salt and broth and sugar and apparently natural flavorings added. So you don't have to salt this one, he says, but if yours is not brined at all, definitely salt it. I've got about half of the salt he recommends for this size turkey, since it's already been salted, but I find that it does need a little bit more. Anyway, I'm going to open this over a bowl because we're supposed to save all of the juices, which I have never ever done before. Usually whatever's around the chicken, I don't keep at all. I do keep the giblets and all the other bits, but which we will be keeping this time, but I never keep the juices. But anyway, this has been defrosting in the refrigerator for several days. He says at least a week. Depends on the size of your bird. Mine was still a little frozen this morning, so I let it soak in some cold water in the sink. But I've got my scissors. I've got a cutting board standing by. There's a lot of kind of conflicting information in here. He says, I think he says he likes to spatchcock it, but we're not doing that for this one. That's not part of the instructions for this recipe. So, I mean, we'll see. I have made a spatchcock bird before. This is a 12-pound turkey, which he says if you need more turkey, you should cook 2 smaller birds rather than 1 larger bird, although his cooking time starts at 12 to 14 pounds and goes up to 24 to 30 pounds. So I guess you do what you want. I've got this thing keeping the legs together, which he says to remove. It's a plasticky bit. There we go. Well, I didn't get it cut, but the scissors did help me get it out of there. So there we go. We don't need that. If your turkey has a pop-up timer, you should also remove that. We're supposed to remove the tail, which is this thing, which is one of the things that was keeping that plasticky bit on. We're going to keep that. We're going to remove this excess fat here. So you definitely need some good scissors, even though we are not going to be spatchcocking this. This is the neck and some more of those juices that are still frozen. Okay. This is the bag of giblets, which I'm going to open, and I'm going to remove the liver and keep everything else. So that is the gizzard, I think. This part is the liver. It's softer and looks like liver. And that is all that is in there. I've got this area that's very easy to clean, so I definitely see some. Oh, I do have a timer. It was hiding underneath the wingtip, so I'm going to take this timer out. He says don't trust those. All right, so now I'm going to try and get as much of this juice out, this frozen juicy bits out. Oh, and while I'm at it, I'm going to cut off some more of this fatty skin. I'm not going to cut it too short, but I certainly don't need all of that attached. There we go. I think that that is most of it. There we go. So as I said, you have to do this the day before you eat, so it will still have some time to defrost in the refrigerator. I just had the whole thing sitting in this bowl in my refrigerator, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to bother covering it for its overnight stay in the refrigerator because it'll be fine. Just make sure you don't have anything else that's going to be touching it or anything like that. Just beware your cross-contamination. So now that I have gotten, I think pretty much, oh no, there's one more thing. We're supposed to remove these wing tips. So let me, all of these bits are going to be used to make the gravy, so they're not going to waste. The only thing we're not using right now is the liver. You can save it if you like to eat like chicken livers or anything like that, but they just, they kind of dissolve and aren't great in the gravy. So, all right. I'm going to move my turkey over here and just verify. I think I've gotten everything I want to off of that. Excuse me. I'm going to move all of this, including the juices, into a zip top plastic bag that's going to go into the refrigerator for use tomorrow. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get this bowl washed out and ready to put this back in. Yeah, he doesn't say I need to like pat it dry or anything, which, I mean, we're going to draw out more juices with the salt anyway, so whatever. Anyway, I'm going to get this all ready to go in the refrigerator and ready for my turkey to go back into the bowl for its stay, and we'll see you in a second. Quart-size baggie ready for the fridge. Okay, so instead of salting the turkey on here and it going everywhere, I'm gonna just put it in the bowl and salt it there. Inside and out, just sort of all over. He says the salt does penetrate the skin and get into the meat, so that's interesting. And definitely a dry brine is the way to go, according to him, and I agree. It's a lot easier. There we go. I'm going to start with the underside. And again, I've already measured this out, so I don't have to contaminate anything. Now, this goes in the refrigerator, and at least the outside is nice and decontaminated since I washed it all. And we'll see you tomorrow when we're ready to cook it. That's all we have to do to this tonight. Today. Yeah, today. So he says 12 to 24 hours in the refrigerator. So we'll probably have close to 24 because you're supposed to bring this out about 5 hours before you want to eat. Our turkey has been in the refrigerator for about 24 hours at this point, and we've got our smoker coming up to 325 degrees. You can also do this offset in a charcoal grill. We're going to use the smoker because that's the easiest way to keep it at 325 for an extended period of time and not have to babysit it, and also have room for a pan underneath the grates, because you either need to use a pan that you don't mind getting really, really dirty, or be able to put the pan underneath the grate and put the turkey immediately on top of the grate. We're gonna use this disposable pan, which I don't know if it has a full 3.5 quart capacity, but we'll see how much we can get into it. It doesn't matter that much because you're going to take what comes out of here and boil it down afterwards, so it's okay. We're just going to deal with it because this is what we have. So I'm going to take the trimmings and juices that we saved and just kind of put these in here. And then this is going to go immediately in the trash. And we're going to add some stuff to this. Everything that comes out of here is going to go into our gravy. So I'm going to start with some carrots and celery. I didn't have to peel the carrots. Everything's just cut into like 2-inch pieces. I just cut the tips and tails off. It's all fine. Same with the celery, which also 2-inch pieces. Leaves and all is fine. I just got juices on my hands, but I definitely need to wash them, so whatever. Some onions, and you'll see the skins are left on, but they are quartered. Did take both ends off and then quartered them. If your skins have any black moldy stuff on them, I would take those off, but you know, if they don't, you're good. The skins will provide nice color as well as the onion flavor. I'm also going to add into here some, it's supposed to be apple juice. We had apple cider. It will be absolutely fine. Some dried sage and some dried thyme. And the last thing that goes in here is a couple of bay leaves. This is going to be, we're going to add as much water as we can to this, but I'm going to wait to do that until it is in place because this is a very flexible, disposable pan. So let me clean this up. I'm going to put this pan for transportation onto the stiffer pan that we have. And we're going to try and get as much water as we can in here. You can also use chicken broth. I'm going to use water just because it's easier and I don't have a ton of chicken broth right now. It's supposed to be 3.5 quarts. We'll put as much water as we can fit after it gets in place. So put this way over here. And this is our turkey. You can see it's kind of dried out on top. That's absolutely fine. It's been in the refrigerator without a cover. And so that will kind of dry it out, but that's good. It's easier to crisp up that way. And we have our Simon and Garfunkel rub that we made. We've got a short about that. I'll link up there, which is parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, and some other things. Pepper, no salt, because we've already salted this. But now we're going to try to separate the skin from the breast here without ripping it. Yeah, where it's a little moister, it's much easier to do. So if you're watching this and haven't done it yet, maybe do this the day before. Not the rub, but the separation technique. All right, so now I'm going to put that rub up in there as much as I can. Also down along the thigh. There we go. I'm going to put some in any of these juices that are coming out right now. I will put into the pan once we put it in place, but I'm just going to leave this in its current state. There we go. Try to cover that breast back up. The last bits all on top. There we go. And our bird is ready to go onto the smoker. I'm going to wash my hands, even though I'll have to get them dirty again once I go outside. But yeah, we're all ready to put it on the smoker. I forgot a couple things that we need to do before we put this onto the smoker. First, we need to cover the ends of the drumsticks and the wings that we cut the tips off of. And he says to oil some aluminum foil and use that. So that's what I'm going to do. This is just some grapeseed oil that I have in a spray bottle. He says to like basically paint it on with a brush, but I decided this was going to be much easier for me. And we're just covering the tips so they don't burn. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing with the wings. As well as I can anyway. There we go. And now I'm going to have to decontaminate this. That's great, because I've gotten it all turkified. That's all right. There we go. And I'm going to have my assistant come and turn on and open my probe thermometer that we can leave in it while it's on the smoker, because I don't want to have to clean that as well. So he says if you have a thermometer, probe thermometer you can leave in, that's perfect, and we do. So I think we're supposed to put this in the breast a little past the center. I don't know what he means by that, but I'm just going to, you know what? There was a hole here somewhere. Oh well, I won't be able to find it now. I'm just going to stick this in and try to get it into like the meatiest part of the breast, but not touching the bone, because that's not great. And now we're ready to take this out and put it on the smoker. All right, so we have our gravy pan in the middle, underneath. Hopefully it has enough room to still, collect some juices. We're gonna have to keep an eye on that. It may go a little bit dry, and if you need to add water, he says if it goes below 2 inches, which is about what ours is, but if it starts to go dry and starts to burn, add water, boiling water, so it doesn't bring the temperature down. But I'm just going to put this turkey right on top in the middle. I'm going to dump all of these juices into the pan. There we go. And we don't need to touch this now until it is approaching 150 degrees. 150 degrees, it will not be done, but at 150, we take it out, take the drip pan out, and deal with the gravy. So he says it'll be 2 to 2.5 hours for this size turkey. I don't know, we'll see. But we'll be back when it gets about 150 degrees. Turkey just hit about 150, and now we need to remove the turkey, get our pan out from under the turkey to take it inside and make the gravy. So he suggests using the handles of 2 wooden spoons to move it. Also, we're going to be trying to dump all of the, that one's not even going in. Oh my goodness. Okay. Trying to dump as many of the juices out into the pan as we can. This is very awkward. All right. I think I can get it to my pan. There we go. Good enough. I need to remove this. Which is not super easy with these on, but good enough. And now I need to move my pan to my much more stable pan. I'm gonna do that. There we go. There we go. And now we put the turkey back on the grill to finish coming up to, I believe, 165, and crisp up the bottom skin because it'll be now a dry heat without that liquid underneath. So I also think I should remove this. Oh yeah, it's gotten a little sticky, but I really want the skin. Well, okay, never mind. Not taking that off because it's stuck. So, all right, back onto the grill it goes. To finish its cooking. And we are going to go back into the kitchen to deal with our gravy. So we've got our gravy makings here. And since I didn't start with quite as much liquid as he said, I'm not going to have as much as he said, but it'll be okay. It smells really, really good, by the way. There's a lot of herbs in there and all of this. But I need to strain it. So I've got a strainer over a pan, and I'm going to just put all of this in there. Well, that's all that I need to do. Now, I feel like this has not given its all yet. There's still, feel like I can probably use all of these bits to make some turkey stock with the carcass when I'm done. So what I'm going to do is cool this off a little bit and put it in the refrigerator so that when we're done with the turkey, I can make some turkey stock to have more gravy later when I have leftovers. But so that's going to cool off there. And this is going to go on the stove to reduce to a thickness you like. He does say that you should not thicken this gravy, that a thinner gravy will absorb into the meat and be better than a thickened gravy with like flour or cornstarch or anything like that. So we're not going to do that for this one, but I'm going to taste it and see how rich it is. Let me get a spoon actually. So he says basically taste it when you think it's the thickness you want, taste it, and then you should season it. Yeah, this could still reduce. Even though we started with a lot less liquid than he said, this can still reduce. Once we reduce it to a point that we want, yeah, he doesn't really say how long, whatever. We're going to defat it, which you can do with a basting spoon or with a defatter, which we've shown you here before. Actually, I'll show it to you. So what you do is you put the liquid in here, the fat floats to the top, and then you can pour off the non-fat here. So after we thicken it appropriately, then we will defat it, and that will be our gravy. So it's over here now. So yeah, so we'll reduce it, we'll salt it appropriately. Tastes like it will need some salt right now, but you don't want to do that until it's as thick as you want. And then we'll defat it. And when the turkey is ready to come off, we'll show you what that looks like. Meathead says to take this up when it has hit 160. 165 is normal, but that it will get there with carryover cooking. But I'm going to verify with this other thermometer just because we've been having some problems recently. Yeah, that's good. Our thigh meat is not there yet. So we even like thighs a little bit more done, and I'm kind of surprised that it's not more done. They're at like 155 to 157 depending on where I am inserting the probe. That's 160. I think we're going to go ahead and take this up. It has definitely gotten all of the smoke that it will ever get at this point, and we're going to hold it until we're ready to eat inside at 170. So everything should be fine, and we'll make sure before we eat it that it is fine, but it'll carry over cooking to 165 at least at this point. But we'll verify just to be sure. But we will. He says not to let this rest, not to tent it, just basically immediately carve it and eat it. I have carved a turkey on this channel before. I don't think I'm going to show myself carving this, but I do it the same way every time, and it's the way that he suggests, and I'll link that up here. One of my other turkey or maybe chicken videos. It's basically exactly the same. Yeah, so we'll show you what this looks like and let you know what we think in just a minute. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make the ultimate smoked turkey from Meathead Goldwyn's book, Meathead. I don't think I've smoked a whole turkey before. Certainly not on the channel. We've rotisseried a breast before, and we may have smoked a whole turkey breast before, but I don't think I've done a whole turkey before. So this was newer to me. It included his Simon and Garfunkel rub, which we will have made a short of, I believe, and I can link that up there. I'm pretty sure it'll be linked somewhere in this video, if not in the comments down below. I found that to be, I think for the size of turkey that I had, it was potentially a little too much of the rub. It was very, when I got to the skin parts where there was more of the rub, which was under the skin and on top of the skin, I could taste the pepper. It was very peppery and it was very sagey. And there is a lot of sage in it, and the pepper is pretty prevalent there as well, and it was freshly ground, so I mean, it makes sense. I think it's a good rub. I think it's probably just was a little too much for the amount of turkey that I had. But I will be using the bit that we have left over as sort of a poultry seasoning whenever we need poultry seasoning. The gravy, I did not start with as much water or stock, and I used water as he says because my pan wouldn't hold it. I got a lot of the apple flavor still. It wasn't as diluted as much, but then again, you also, after you cook it all together, you boil it down until it is, a richer, thicker gravy. It's not a thickened gravy, so I think probably would still taste a little bit more like apple. I would maybe use the stock next time just to give it a little bit more flavor. I made some turkey stock from the carcass of the roasted turkey, and that turned out very well. So now that I have it on hand, I would use some of that instead of water. But I think it was a good method. I did have something weird happen that has never happened for me before when I've cooked like a whole bird. And I don't know if it was because of the moist heat on the bottom from the pan of water and vegetables and everything being underneath it. But usually when I cook a bird, the breast comes to the temperature that we prefer, which is, you know, about 165, at about the same time as the thighs and legs. Well, the inner thigh is what we usually check because that's the coolest place. So that usually we prefer that at a higher temperature, and usually even with a whole bird, that tends to happen at about the same time. In the end, the breast was at about 160. When we pulled it off, it came up to 165. It was perfectly fine. But the thighs were not cooked well enough, not safe to eat. They were still in the 150s. So rather than leave it on the grill where the whole thing could potentially, like where the breast would get potentially dry, I did bring it inside. We put it in the oven at a low heat for a little while, and then when we were ready to eat, we checked it again. Still was not up to temperature. So I cut off the breasts and we ate the breasts as they were, and they were perfectly well cooked. It was all fine, no pink at all, except for the smoke ring on the outside, which was kind of cool. But I cut off the thighs and the legs, and we roasted those in a hotter oven for a little while just to get those done. So that's never happened to me before, and I'm not sure why. I might try a whole bird on the smoker without a pan, well, with a pan underneath it, but without as much water, and just see what happens, because that was interesting to me, and it's not something that he talks about in here at all. So our salt level was good. Like I said, mine was pre-brined, but I did salt it a little bit with about half of what he says. And a lot of birds that you buy in the grocery store will be pre-brined, and it will say on the package that it has been. So that, just be careful with the salt there if it has been, but I find that it needs a little extra. I would prefer a thickened gravy, but I do tend to like my gravies a little thicker, and I can do that with the leftovers, but I did try it the way he suggests. But the breast was very tender. The skin was crispy, and we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it a lot. So I will find where I have carved a turkey or a chicken. I'm sure I've done at least one, if not both of those, and link that either up here or in the comments below or wherever I talked about carving it before, because he does have a particular method that he suggests for carving, and I've that's basically how I've been doing it for a while, so I'm pretty sure I've done it before, and it's not so hard. I like it that way. So I will say, he does say do not take risks with your Thanksgiving turkey. So if you want to do this for Thanksgiving, you maybe should do it. Try it out beforehand to see how it works for you and if you prefer it. A lot of times people have very particular ideas about what Thanksgiving turkey is, and if the smoked turkey is not what they're expecting, it could be a problem in your family. But you never know. We cooked ours in October, and you're perfectly allowed, as he says, to eat turkey in August or in October. And if you're Canadian, you do eat turkey in October because that's when you have Thanksgiving. So there you go. Anyway, if you've enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week.